Welcome to the coaching session for the video small group. If you haven't watched the video yet, you can click on my face.
On your face?
Click on my face to tell me that you love me. Sorry.
Well, that's in your face.
Oh,
Okay.
this video small group deals with one of the reoccurring issues that we are going to talk a lot about in our videos on this channel. And that issue is language. Now, this is Dad's area of expertise. His doctorate is in communication from the University of Kentucky. Go Wildcats.
Yeah. Go Big Blue.
Yep. And your specialties are interpersonal communication and cross-cultural communication.
Yeah, because church is its own culture. And if we're going to reach people outside the church, we need to understand that it's cross-cultural communication that we're engaged in.
Okay. So, small group. As a term.
Yeah. Small group is an example of that, actually. It is Christianese. It's become a technical term in the church over the last 30 or 40 years, starting with the church growth researchers' recognition of the fact that growing churches were churches that had multiple small groups, groups where people connected better. So they retained their people more, people grew in their faith more, if the church had multiple small groups. Now, small group is used in psychology as a descriptive phrase of 3 to 15 people. And it's also used in psychology as the place where you get together for providing an opportunity for people to open up, talk about their difficulties, get some help, some support. And so the use of small group as a technical term in the church and as a goal in the church is an example of what I like to call the psychosocial captivity of the church, where the goals of psychology have come to at least dominate, if not even define, the goals of ministry for the church. And that creates problems.
Of course, we can spend a lot of time going real far into detail.
We'll get to that later.
But small group, as a term used within the church, has several connotations to people outside the church, and
even to people inside the church who don't want to participate. You're frustrated because people aren't getting into small groups? Well, this is one of the reasons. They have certain connotations in their heads about that now technical term.
So small group, as we showed in the video, for many people, brings up thoughts of tea and crumpets or a knitting circle. That's at very best. You move a little further on, you get into self-help. Self-help groups are common outside the church.
For many people, that's not a positive thing.
Right.
The notion that I need to be in a self-help group?
Right.
Yeah.
And then one step further from that is support groups. So people have the connotation of you're addicted to something and you need help, or it's an intervention. So these are the connotations of people outside the church and many people inside the church when you say small group.
Yeah, and what comes to mind especially for a lot of the guys is, oh, this is a group where I'm going to have to go open up and show everybody all my crap. Sorry, I'm not interested in that.
Well, isn't that what intimacy is? You open up and you show them all your crap. That's intimacy.
No. For most guys, intimacy has a very different connotation, and we'll talk about that one at another time. Yeah. The funny thing is that this is also true for a lot of women. I have a friend who was talking about how much she enjoyed her new church as compared to her old church. She said in her old church, they just talked about small groups all the time. You got to be in small groups. Small groups are great. Small group this, small group that. So I just didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be in that. It just didn't interest me. The crazy thing is that she's in 2 Bible studies and a prayer group. And I said, you do know you're in 3 small groups. She went, well, yeah. But it was different because it was a Bible study. It was a prayer group. It wasn't a small group.
So there's alternatives to what you can call these things. I think the best alternative is to call them by their specific name. So if you're in a prayer group, call it a prayer group. If you're in a Bible study, call it a Bible study. If it's a more recreational group as a part of the church, say it's a car club, it's the car club. Now,
yeah, understand that calling all of these different things small groups is helpful when we're doing our planning, when we're organizing, etc. But that's something that's internal to the leadership and the organization of the church. It's not something that you promote to the whole congregation as you need to be in small groups. Well, no, we've got a number of different groups that you might be interested in. We got a brand new study on the Gospel of Mark starting up, for example.
And what these really are interest groups. It's a group of people who are all interested in doing a Bible study, or a group of people who are all interested in being in a gun club. So small group has a lot of negative connotations that interest group doesn't. So on an organizational level, when you're doing your planning meetings, church organization of the ministry, call it interest groups, but don't promote them as, hey, we have a bunch of interest groups you can join.
And understand that if you have a gun club group, okay, that gun club group can be a group where Christ is central to the group. It becomes a part of the conversation to talk about how Christ is impacting my life and making a difference in what I do in the world. And that's what differentiates the gun club in the church from the gun club down the street. So it can be a means that the church uses to help people grow in their spiritual life.
And one of the drawbacks of small group is that it has this very narrow connotation of we sit around and we do a book study or a Bible study or a prayer group, and that is it. And many people aren't ready for that spiritually. They're searching more. They want to try different things in a gun club or a baseball team or a card club, playing poker together or anything like that can be a means to bring people further along in their spiritual development.
Yeah. Now, the other thing to realize is I work with churches. I hear all kinds of frustration that, men don't want to be in small groups. They're not in small groups. Men are not interested in being in small groups.
They're loners.
Because they think that men nowhere at any time want to be in groups. And the opposite is true. Men are not loners. They naturally gravitate towards other men. Go down to the sports bar, you'll see a group of men sitting around a table.
Just
talking.
like in the video.
Yeah. Go to the coffee shop right now, and you'll find a bunch of guys sitting around solving the world's problems. Now, that's a small group.
After your baseball game last night.
Yeah.
Which, of course, your shoulders hurt, so just going and supporting the team.
Yeah, just go and, hey, guys, how you doing? Being part of the team. But when the game's over, a bunch of the guys going, hey, let's go get a beer. Now, it wasn't about having a beer. It wasn't about getting drunk. It was about getting together and talking. Guys, getting together and talking? Whoa.
Guys don't talk.
Wrong.
So the key to all of this is to recognize that certain words, certain phrases, the language that we use conveys emotional connotation that can either discourage or encourage people's participation.
Yeah.
In the instance of small group, it discourages most men's and many women's participation in the very ministry it's trying to promote.
Yeah. So, here's what we want you to do. Step outside your normal assumptions. Try to put on the skin of somebody outside the church and look at the words that you use in terms of the connotations that they would feel. Ask yourself, is this a word that actually encourages or discourages involvement?
Now, once you have a few of those words together that are in use at your church, post them in the comments below.
Yeah.
And then come up with alternatives.
And help each other come up with alternatives. Get the conversation going.
And try to make a difference in the language of your church to get people involved rather than to push them away.
See you next time.